Hi, this is Misha, and this is the everlasting, ever-seen Klingon bird of prey in 3 different Eaglemoss versions here. I almost didn't even do this video because this ship is so ubiquitous, but what the hell, why not? On the left, we have the bird of prey with its wings in the so-called attack position, so down, with the disruptors down. Then in the middle we have the first version that Eaglemoss released, with the wings in the middle position, the so-called cruise mode, which is what we commonly saw this as in Next Generation. It's probably my favorite. And then finally we have the most recent Eaglemoss, which is the bird of prey in the landing or landed mode, with the wings up and with the landing gear deployed. Why I have it, I don't know. Alcohol may have been involved in that night. Probably, honestly, one of the big sales when you get kind of stack discounts and get them cheap. The first two, cruise mode and attack mode, were released as standard editions, and then thankfully the landed mode they just kind of released as a special, website edition. So yeah, the bird of prey. You know what it looks like, and if you don't, can't help you there. There's been so many models of this ship. Even in the Eaglemoss collection, the cruise mode was number 3. I do like that they at least tried to do it in a different configuration. Most of the models you see, or even toys of the bird of prey, are the attack mode. So at least they went for the cruise mode. And I like it because that's how we mostly saw the bird of prey in Next Generation, because the model itself, this was still in the days of studio models, was partially broken and the wings no longer adjusted. Of course, this model was initially made for Star Trek III, Search for Spock, and this is well known amongst nerd circles. It was originally going to be a Romulan ship because the bad guys were initially going to be Romulan. I kind of wish they had been. And then they wanted to go to Klingons, so the idea was Krug, also known as Doc Brown in makeup, had stolen a Romulan bird of prey, which I'd have been okay with that. That was kind of showing how he was some badass Klingon that he stole from the Romulans. And there was a lot of technology interchange between the Romulans and Klingons during the original series and after. Also known as kind of lazy writing, but there you go. In fact, the two races are convoluted quite a bit. It seems like the writers really grasped it. A lot of Romulan traits got carried over to Klingon and vice versa. Anyway, I digress. And then eventually they just kind of cut out the whole Romulan, and this just was a Klingon ship. And this was also the first Klingon ship to be seen with a cloak. Prior to Star Trek III, we never saw Klingons with a cloak. But Kirk and friends did not seem surprised to see a cloaking Klingon, so it must have been a known thing for a while. And most people will rectify this in their canon by saying, well, during the treaty that Romulans and Klingons had in the 2260s, the Klingons gave the Romulans the plans for the battle cruiser, what we know as the D7, and the Romulans gave the Klingons plans to a cloaking device, although probably not as advanced of one as what the Romulans were using at the time, much like how the D7 was being supplanted by the Katinga. So, give each person kind of the yesterday's technology. So there's that. The bird of prey is armed with 2 big-ass disruptors, one on each wingtip, as you know, and then a torpedo in the front, which actually this was supposed to originally be a deflector, but it ended up kind of being a torpedo, so there you go. I think these, in the back here, these humps were pretty much its equivalent of warp nacelles, or at least the ability to generate a warp field. Impulse engines in the back, in the usual place. It's a good place to put engines, right guys? In the back. And now we get to size. Some people like to think that there's just one bird of prey, and I think this is just not possible. We've seen too many different uses, roles, and crews. The crew, we know from Star Trek 3, was 12. It was very obviously a scout ship or like a light destroyer. This has come to be known as the Burrell, or Birel, bird of prey. So a small one. Size is 75, maybe 100 meters. And this is the one that became the HMS Bounty, or for our British terms, HMS. Then in Next Generation, we see more birds of prey. They start to really appear by Season 2. And these seem to be bigger. They seem to have a crew of anywhere from 30 to 50, with 36 is a commonly accepted number. So, kind of along the lines of, say, the Defiant. And they seem to have a length of about 150 meters. And this class is often referred to as the Cavort, or Cavort. It's also said that the Cavort may have an additional rear-facing photon torpedo launcher. Certainly more shields, armor, because we see them take a beating in places like the Dominion War and the invasion of Cardassia in Season 4 Deep Space Nine. So I am of the firm belief there are two classes. We also know that even though this ship was in service from the at least mid-late 23rd century through the entire 24th century, getting into the 25th, they did upgrade it and change it. For example, in Star Trek Generations, they refer to a D-12 class being taken out of commission or service. So it seems like Klingons are traditionalists, and while they keep the same hull design, they may often totally gut it and replace the technology. We see the Federation doing something similar with, say, the Excelsior or Oberth or Miranda classes. Of course, the real world reason is, in the 80s and into the 90s, studio models were expensive, and this was a very nice, very detailed model made for Star Trek 3, and they wanted to reuse it, and at first it was a great idea, but then they kept reusing it, and reusing it, and reusing it. And they were never really troubled about being consistent, size and power and all that. So that's why we ended up having to kind of make a soft cannon, Burrell, and Cavort just to kind of make everything work. But when you get to Deep Space Nine, it gets really confusing because you see times when you very much expect, for example, Chancellor, or at the time General Martok, flagship, it should be a Vorcha class, or even an older Katinga, or maybe even a Negvar, but it's a bird of prey. No, why would a high-ranking general use a small little ship? Okay, the Burrell was a scout. The Cavort was bigger, but even it was, a destroyer, or at best, a very light cruiser, but more or less a destroyer or an escort. Again, it was kind of analogous to a Defiant class. So it'd be as if an admiral in Starfleet used the Defiant as his flagship. It just doesn't make sense. They just overuse this to the point I kind of got sick of it. And guys, I can't even see it, but I got tired of it. I was thinking, well, where's the Vorcha? That's a nice ship. And then, of course, we get into the times of CGI. Why they could not have, made some kit bashes. At least they did with the Negvar, which I was appreciative of. They took the Vorcha and it seems like the Vorcha kind of got short shrift in Star Trek. I don't know why. Kind of bugged me. If you can't tell. Anyway, I have no doubt that, if you go to the 25th or 26th century, the Klingons are still using the bird of prey. Hell, go to the 29th or 31st century on those time travel episodes, they're probably still using it. Maybe by then they have finally given it a new paint job, because, yeah, obviously the paint is starting to... These really need a paint job. But it's pretty much the iconic Klingon ship, which is a little ironic, because it started off in design and intent as a Romulan ship. And in fact, in the original series, the only bird of prey we heard of was a Romulan. But, oh well. So it goes, right, folks? So yeah, the overused Klingon bird of prey. That's my little take on it. Probably next to a lot of the Federation Enterprises, this is about the most iconic ship. It's been in pretty much everything. The original series films, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I think it appeared in Voyager a time or two, at least on displays. I bet somehow it even wormed its way into Enterprise. Kind of the mainstay of the Klingon fleet. They seem very durable. They don't have very high warp. Seems like about warp 8. They can go faster and higher, but only for very brief periods and at great cost. So, not the fastest, but they have good maneuverability, good armor, and their disruptors are quite powerful, and their torpedoes seem to be quite powerful too. So, handy little fighter for the Klingons. Well, there you have it, folks. A nerd's look at that. If you want to see real guns, you can check out some of my other videos here, or some of our videos on the main Misha page. Any questions, feel free to drop them below, or just, if you want to chat. As always, like, share, subscribe if you could. Appreciate you tuning in. This is Misha, and I will catch you very soon next time.